Hello, welcome to another edition of Club Shay Shay. I am your host and the proprietor of Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharpe. And the guy that's coming by to have a drink and talk today really needs no introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. He's actor, producer, author, 30 years in the movie game. Some people know him as Ricky. I know him as Morris Chestnut.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice, that's why. All my life, I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice, that's why. All my life, I've been grinding all my life.
Mo, what's going on, bro?
Man, 30 years. See, I got in it when I was 2, so I'm 32 right now. But yeah, I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old.
But you're still in the game, though.
I'm still in the game, man. It's been a blessing. It's definitely been a blessing.
So how have you been? What's been going on? What have you been up to the last couple of months? I know the pandemic.
Man, it's great. I'm gonna run down a whole bunch of stuff. So,
okay.
I just had a movie. I produced a movie that came out on streaming 2 weeks ago called Spell. It was with Chadwick and Loretta Devine. And that's a project I'm really excited about. Right now, I'm in Atlanta doing the second season of The Resident. I only came on for one season, but because of the pandemic, things got a little messed up, and so I came back to wrap up the character, and so that's been fun. And I have one of the projects that I'm most excited about. I have this podcast coming out called Jesus versus Big Joe.
Okay.
And it's about a high school football player who was, he was one of the best linemen in the country, recruited by Bobby Bowden, Lou Holtz, everything. He got caught up, went to USC, got caught up in some medical stuff, had 18 surgeries and amputation. It's a faith-based project, and it's about how he overcomes all that adversity to find God. So I'm excited about that one as well.
Back to what you're working on, the movie that you produced. It's called Spell, starring Omar Hardwick, Loretta Devine.
Yeah.
What made you go in this genre?
So what happened was, the producer, I'd worked with the producer, Gordon Gray, before on another project. And he asked me, he called me into the office, hey, can you read this script? And he wanted me to do this movie. So when I read this script, the script that he had, it kind of really wasn't what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And so I called my manager and said, listen, I'm not, I'm going to do it. He says, well, let's talk to Gordon about this. So we pitched him another concept of a movie, and it was this one. It was Spell. So we pitched him the concept. He was into it. We found the writers, wrote the script. The writers wrote the script, and Kurt Wimmer, who's a great writer, wrote the script. Now I had some, everything in the movie wasn't as I wanted it to be, but that's movie making.
So you went from possibly starring in the movie to help writing and co-producing the movie.
Right. So when the producer gave me the script, it was a script for something completely different.
Right.
And it wasn't something that I wanted to do. So my writer, my manager was like, my manager, Brian Wilkins, he was like, listen, let's pitch him, this concept that Brian and I had already previously discussed.
Oh, so you had already been working on this?
Yeah. So my manager and I, we talk about concepts all the time for shows, for movies, for podcasts. Right. Matter of fact, you're going to be getting a call from me soon because I have a concept for a sitcom with you in mind. But,
that's what I'm talking about. You know what? I always did want to do a sitcom. I always wanted to be on TV full time and have a sitcom.
Hey, man. Hey, don't just talk about it. I'm telling you. I mean, you saying that now on the camera on Club Shay Shay, you'll get that call from the network. Hey, Shannon, you're available. So, hey, watch out now.
Oh, I'll definitely be available. I'll make myself available.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll talk to you about that because I have a couple of concepts and one. And I'll talk to you about it. But yeah, so my manager was, we were talking about this concept and we pitched it to Gordon. Gordon liked it. So that's when it was nothing. It was nothing, just a concept between my manager and I.
Right.
And we got the writer, and Kurt Wimmer, who's an incredible writer. I mean, he got we met with a few writers. Kurt came in, he immediately got the story and he turned the script around really quick and it went into production. As a matter of fact, when I was on this show when it started going into production, but initially I was intending to star in it.
So let me ask you, so it's because of, I noticed a lot of people are doing streaming, a lot of people are doing like Netflix, not the other big budget. Is that because of COVID? If you've had to find a different way to still do your craft?
I can't say it's just because of COVID.
Okay.
You know, even the movies that are released now, normally if they're like the big Marvel blockbusters, you know, it's very rare that the low budget independent can find an audience. And so the great thing about streaming, you know, with the Netflix and Amazons is, you know, you get global exposure and you get a platform. So you know, whatever you produce, you know, it gives people opportunity to see what you do.
Right.
And, you know, back in the day, I know people who've made independent movies for $50-60 million, and they're sitting on a shelf somewhere, and nobody saw it. This was before streaming even you know took over the game.
Right. So do you think streaming is like, how do I say this? Is this what we're going to see more and more of until we come out of this pandemic?
I think until we come out of the pandemic, yes. However, you know, like I said, I have a couple other movies that I'm actively producing, and I really want them to go to the theater because to me, there's nothing like, you know, I have a comedy.
That theater experience.
There's nothing like theater experience. You know, everybody's there sharing the same thing, and you know, the laughter, the feeling, the crying. There's nothing like that experience. So I can't wait. I can't wait for it to come back.
The smell of the popcorn, you know, the people talking in the background, you know, it's like, and for me, I mean, I'm a movie guy, but I just find myself, if I'm watching a movie at home, I'm like, I wonder what else is on television. Where if I'm at the movie, I can't just flip that. I can't just get up and I'm going to stay.
It's a very captive audience. That's why, you know, for a long time, you know, when you have people as quote unquote movie stars, because you go into this theater, it's blacked out, and you're just so captivated on that screen for you know 2.5 hours. That's why it's, you know, as an artist, sometimes, you know, we're very responsible about you know the messages that we send, because people are really absorbing those messages.
So you also doing The Residence. You said you were only going to do one season, but you came back because of the pandemic. You came back, fulfilled an obligation. So are you done after this season, or are you going to have a reoccurring role?
Well, so, you know, things are always fluid. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I love the cast. I love the producers. I love the environment, you know, here.
Tell the people about your character. Tell the people you're a neurosurgeon.
Yes, I play a neurosurgeon, and what attracted me to this character, so I play a neurosurgeon that's based off of a real life person, or I say a couple of people.
Please don't say it's Ben Carson.
No. No, not Ben Carson. But I wasn't gonna say something I'm gonna say. No, so it's based off the character, and so the one thing I really want, one of the reasons why I really wanted to play this character, because it's completely different than anything I played before.
Right.
And this character, out of probably everything that I've done, the response when I'm in public is most passionate about this character.
Really?
In a negative way.
Oh, okay.
Because I play a doctor who is a neurosurgeon who is basically, he's more concerned about the bottom line of the hospital instead of the health of the patient. So if you come in and I see that you don't need this invasive surgery, but it's good for the bottom line of the hospital, I'm going to recommend that you get that.
Well, you sound like a real doctor to me. Well, I mean, what's the problem?
No. They're supposed to be for the well-being of the patient.
Okay, yeah. So, but I remember you on a Fox, you did a Fox show called Rosewood.
Yes.
Where you were a forensic guy.
Right.
So you like playing these doctors' roles.
Well, you know, one thing I do love about playing doctors, because they convey a certain amount of intelligence. Mm-hmm. You know, they make me sound smarter than I am with all that dialogue. I have to rehearse that dialogue all night, but I get it down. Yeah. But yeah, so the one thing about Rosewood, the one thing that really drew me to this character, because the Rosewood character was extremely optimistic about every single situation. Right. This character is not so much. So it's playing a doctor in a different light.
When you played Rosewood, did you meet with any forensic guys to understand what they do, how they do it, how they go about their business? Did you meet with anybody to learn how to better play that role?
Yes, yeah, we had a technical advisor on set all the time. and asking, you know, I was always asking him a ton of questions about it. It's a very interesting job. But one of my, my favorite shows, I mean, if I'm not watching sports, I'm either watching for Forensic Files or Dateline.
Yeah.
You know, so Rosewood was right up my alley in that sense. It was there was a lot of humor to it, but Rosewood was right up in my alley. And being able to talk to that forensic professional, it was I definitely couldn't do it in real life. I'll just say that.
You were basically a black Quincy. I don't know if were you old enough to remember Quincy?
Oh, come on, man. Of course I'm on that. Yeah, I definitely remember Quincy. Yeah.
You mentioned your faith-based podcast, Jesus and Big Joe, and it's based loosely on a former USC football player. What made you decide to go this route?
So I was always looking for something, because I did a movie with T.D. Jakes called Not Easily Broken about a number of years ago.
Right.
And that was one of the projects. It was basically a project about this married couple whose wife got into an accident, and their marriage was being tested, financially, emotionally, sexually. And she had one of her, her mother was in the house with her. So it was about, their marriage vows being tested, not easily broken. And it is one of the projects, like I say, people come up to me for various projects. That project, people really come up, brothers come up to me all the time, man, you know what? I was going through a situation just like that. And I saw that movie, and my wife and I watched that movie, and we kept the faith. So I always knew I wanted to get back to doing something faith-based. I recently, before everything came out, I guess about 2 years ago, I heard the podcast Gladiator. I don't know if it's the Aaron Hernandez podcast.
Yes. Yes.
And I didn't know all the information, so I'm listening to this podcast and I'm hearing the story. I said, man, I really enjoyed that podcast. Okay. So I met this young, passionate, very, very talented producer named Kyle Hogan. And we sat down at lunch, and he told me the story of Big Joe. And that's why the project is Jesus versus Big Joe. And it was something it was a space that I always wanted to get back into. Okay. And when I heard the passion of Kyle, I met Big Joe, and I said, this is it. This is the one I want to do.
Speaking of USC football players, you play a role in the Hood Classic. Now, it's a Mount Rushmore in the hood. Boyz in the Hood, Friday, maybe House Party. I don't know the other guy, but I know those three is going to be on everybody's Mount Rushmore. When I mentioned Boyz in the Hood and Ricky, your first feature role, what goes through your mind?
Oh man, it's first, honestly, now John Singleton is, rest his soul. I mean, he gave me an opportunity. So it's sad in that regard, but I always go back to just when I was just starting out. And I just wanted to be involved in a project that people would see, and people would see me and recognize me for. And he gave me an opportunity. And the one thing I just love, about being involved in that project. I mean, to this day, Nia, Fishburne, Regina, Cuba, everybody is still, Angela, everybody's still going. And it was a special project. Obviously, it's my first big screen, first real movie, actually. And it's something I'm always gonna hold dear.
How did you land the role?
Yeah, so I just got an agent, and actually it was a little bit of I got a little bit lucky for the role, of course. Okay. But here's where the luck is. So when I was coming up as an actor, I started after I graduated from high school. I started acting, and I was taking acting classes at this junior college in Long Beach City Junior College. And I said, okay, so I was getting some pretty good feedback. So I said, you know what, I want to go to Hollywood and take an acting class there and see what people think. Now, at that time, Marla Gibbs, who was on The Jeffersons, 227, 227, she had an acting studio right in Leimert Park. It was right in the hood. And so I said, but her acting studio, the people from The Jeffersons and 227, they would come teach in the class. So I said, I want to get in front of the people who actually do it. Exactly. And so I went there. And so cut to my agent gives me the information to go to this audition for this movie, Boyz n the Hood. I get excited. I go meet the casting director, Jackie Brown. Get the call back. It's John Singleton's in the callback. So I'm like, oh man, this cat, he's my age. And I got this young cat. And so that was a little bit easier then. But then after the second meeting, when I met John, my agent calls me like, listen, you have a screen test. And I'm like, oh, so back then, Hollywood screen test, you go down to the studio, they have all the cameras and all the crew and everything just for a screen test. So I'm like, man, this is my first big Hollywood screen test. So I'm getting all excited. I had a pager back then and I was excited and stuff. And so I said, okay, so where is it? And I'm thinking he's gonna say Columbia, Warner Brothers, somewhere like that. He says it's at Crossroads Academy, Leimert Park. I'm like, Leimert Park, that's the acting school. That's what the screen test is. And he's like, yeah, that's what it is. And so, you know, John wanted to keep everything in South Central, but where that played into my favor is because when I had to go for the screen test, I was already in a comfortable environment. I had already been to school. I was already comfortable there. And so that played into me getting the part.
Did you know it would turn out to be what it is? And here we are 30 years later and people are still talking about that movie. I'm sure that's one of the first things when people meet you, that's one of the first things they talk about. Man, I remember you in the Boyz n the Hood, boy, you were great.
Yeah, you know what? It's two things. So it's one of the movies that I hear people literally from around the world say they learned English from watching Boyz n the Hood.
Okay.
You know, one movie that they see that. But at the time, I didn't. I was literally on set. I'll never forget, I was absorbing everything. At the time, you know, Cube had an album. You know, Fishburne, he wasn't Fish at the time. You know, he had worked. And Cuba had been in a few holding deals at some studios, but he hadn't been on a show that lasted long. So I'm looking around like, okay, you know, it's a movie. I'm a lead in the movie. Nobody knows me. I didn't think the movie was going to do anything. You know, I thought it would be, you know, I thought we were making a good movie, but there's no way I thought there was going to be to the magnitude that it turned out to be.
You mentioned the names, Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, Lawrence Fishburne, Neil Long, Regina King, Angela Bassett. Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, the majority of these are still going strong. Regina, I think Regina has a show on HBO.
She has a show, she has a movie, she directed a movie,
yes. Won an Oscar?
Won an Oscar, yeah. We have 3. So Cuba was nominated, Fishburne was nominated. I think Angela won, and Regina won.
Right. So you got, so what's up? I mean, what's up, bro? I mean,
you know what, man? It was one of those things, you know, exactly. It was one of those things that I did go through a point where I was like, man, I gotta get right. When that movie came, when we did that movie, I was crazy green. You know, I was someone that was just happy to be on set and, you know, walking around and being around all these experienced actors. And it's one of those things, man, yeah, they all got nominated. I've never gone for that. I would love to have an opportunity for a role like that to be nominated. But to be honest, I'm just happy to still be here and still be kicking, you know?
You think about your first role and it's a movie like that. Now, obviously at the time, you don't know it's gonna be a movie like that.
Right.
How does that make you feel now to know that, man, I did that?
I can say I haven't really reflected on it that way.
Okay.
You know, I just, when you ask me about the movie, the things that I think about, like, I'll never forget when I think about how green I was, because I never had a mentor or anybody in this industry. As a matter of fact, you know, talk about an Oscar, I literally, after I did Boyz n the Hood, it was one of the biggest movies, you know, out. I literally went from that to a sitcom. And back then, you didn't do that. Back then, it was you were either in movies or on television show, but that's how much guidance I didn't have. I wish I had somebody. But I think back, this is how green I was. My agent called me. The movie was performing well. I mean, the movie was finished, and he said, hey, your movie's gonna go to the Cannes Film Festival. I was like, Con? I said, well, how come they're not gonna release it here? You know? And that's just how green I was at the time, you know? And not knowing that was, you know, it was a great response over there, and that was a catapult globally for the film.
You mentioned that back then, you know, you did the movie and then you did a sitcom. Do you regret doing the sitcom, or do you wish you had just stuck with movies? Why did you bring that up?
Because it was when I look back, like I said, I've never really had a mentor in the industry. Like I had an agent at that time who just wanted me just to do another job. Right. So when I talk about that, obviously, if I had to go back and do things all over again, there's a lot of things I would do differently. But I always like to bring that up because a lot of times people come up to me, especially in LA. I'm at the gym working out or playing ball. Hey man, you know, I want to get put on. What I have to do? And I was like, all right, man. So I always say, like, you know, at that time, I wish I would have been. I never really. I was in acting classes, but I wasn't really acting. I was just kind of just going for the money. Right. So I wish I would have studied more. And then when my agent pushed me towards that, so I have the experience in the industry to where when people come up to me, I can give them some pretty good guidance because I've been around for a minute.
Right. And so you could give them sound advice that you didn't get when you were coming up.
Without a doubt. And without a doubt. And I always like to go back to those things to tell them, hey, this is what I went through. But, you know, most of the time it falls on deaf ears because a lot of people who come to LA, they kind of just, they want to get discovered on the street corner, or they want to, you know, they want to just go to the party and, you know, get discovered at a party, and it doesn't work like that.
That's only in the movies that they're not going to be in.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. If I were to say, okay, Mo, give me your top 5 hood classic movies of all time, whether you've been in them or not, your top 5.
Top 5, okay. All right, so I'm a little biased with Boyz n the Hood, but
okay.
I'll go back to, I don't know, you may be too young for this, but Cooley High was a classic.
I remember Cooley High.
Cooley High was a classic.
Okay.
You know what? I have to say one of my favorites was Dead Presidents, you know.
Yes.
The Hughes brothers, they put it down with Dead Presidents. Man, love New Jack City.
Right.
And then of course, you know, Friday is always going to be up there.
Yes.
You know, so I would have to. Is that 4 or 5? How many is that?
That's 5.
That's 5. Okay, yeah.
That's 5. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard because you leave House Party out.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, I go back to Penitentiary.
Oh right. Right. That's right. Right. It is hard, you know, and I think the thing is that I think it's the thing that most affects people. Like when I look back, you know, in Cooley High, I really felt the emotion just as watching that movie. You know, House Party. I mean, Friday was funny. I love House Party too. You know, maybe want to get up and dance, but you know, I really enjoyed thinking back. Dead Presidents. Lorenz Tate's a friend of mine. Excellent performance. And Alan and the Hughes brothers. I mean, they put together a really good piece. And Chris Tucker in that movie was, you know, he had a dramatic side to that movie.
Right.
Which was good. So there were a lot of nice elements to that movie.
Do you wish there was a movie that there could have been a sequel to that you did in your career?
Let me see. I wish that, you know, I do, even though I wouldn't have been in it, I wish there would have been a sequel to Boyz n the Hood. You know, or a prequel. Let's do a prequel.
Right.
But yeah, I think Boyz. I wish Boyz we could have done a sequel. We did a sequel to The Best Man, which was cool, and you know, we may be doing something there again soon.
Okay.
With that franchise. But yeah, that would be it.
What do you remember about your first audition?
My first audition, okay, so that's a tough one. So what happened when I was starting out, they used to have this thing called the drama log. It would come out every Thursday. You get in there, you find out, you know, who's looking for you, submit your picture. So I would send my picture out. So I had auditions for student films. I had auditions for films that never even made it. As a matter of fact, you mentioned Penitentiary. One of the films one of my first big auditions was for Penitentiary, and one of my other first big auditions, it was an open call for 227.
Okay.
So, not Penitentiary. It wasn't Penitentiary. I think it was Penitentiary 2. I forgot the director. I think it was the same director.
So that's so is there a role that you turned down that you wish you hadn't, or there's a role that man, I wish I'd have got an opportunity to play that?
Oh yeah, there's always those. But there was I can say this. There was a role that I had an audition for, and I'll tell you what it was in a minute. But at the time, after Boyz n the Hood came out, obviously, you know, Cuba and we had some attention. I was very green. I had a long way to go in my development as an actor. Cuba was already there. Cuba has always been on point.
Right.
And so so we get auditioned for a lot of the same roles. And so like even for Boyz n the Hood, everyone when they first came in, they read for the lead character and then they placed me as Ricky.
Right.
But there was a role, Cuba did it, and Jerry Maguire that he got nominated for. It was a football player and it was fun. And I was like, man, I really worked on that script. I really worked on it. It was a Tom Cruise movie. I really worked on the script. And I went in there and I thought I did a really good job in that reading, right?
Yep.
When I saw the movie, I didn't have a chance because it was just, Cuba just knocked it out the park,
right.
You know, with his choices. He was just incredible. So, you know, that's happened a couple of times actually, to where, you know, if I read for something and because sometimes, you know, that's the one thing that I've learned and I try to tell young actors, because, you know, you have these roles to where you figure it's going to be like a life-changing, game-changing role, and then you don't get it. But the thing about this industry is, as long as you work hard and you do the work, what's for you is for you. You know, what's for you is for you, and then nobody's going to be able to take that away. Jerry Maguire wasn't for me, you know, that was for Cuba.
When I mentioned you worked alongside Omar Epps, Taye Diggs, Jamie Foxx, Terrence Howard, Kevin Hart, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
Of those guys, who brings out the best Morris Chestnut on camera?
Wow. That is a tough one. I would have to say this is a true story. So the one name you didn't mention was Anthony Anderson from Black.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
So I worked with Anthony Anderson on the show. Now Anthony is hard working with comedians, and Anthony's not a comedian. Anthony's a really funny actor, very talented actor who can be funny.
Right.
Kevin can be funny, and they kind of go on these riffs.
Right.
But I'll never forget, I was doing a movie with Anthony, and the studio exec, he came down. He didn't always come to the set, but he came down this day. And we were doing the scene in the movie Two Can Play That Game. And Anthony was doing his thing, you know. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. And I thought I was doing my thing. You know, they said, cut. They were going to do my coverage. The studio executive pulled me to the side and says, you know what? He's killing you in this scene. You know, Anthony is killing you in the scene. I was like, what? And right then and there, so I got up, and it was one of the best scenes in the movie. So Anthony brings out a lot. You know what? I can say this, though. I did work with Robert De Niro.
Okay.
Right? Working with Robert De Niro was something that I always wanted to do. I wouldn't have done this movie unless it was with Robert De Niro.
Okay.
And that was the one time out of all the people I've worked with, The Rock, Demi Moore, John Travolta, he was the only person that I've ever worked with that I'm literally like sitting in a scene. I'm like, man, that's Robert De Niro. You know, that was the only time ever that I've ever been starstruck with De Niro.
As I mentioned in the read-in, your career spans 30 years, 90s, 2010. Here we are in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
What era does Morris Chestnut says, okay, that's the best era?
In terms of my stuff, or just terms of just the industry period? Yeah,
your stuff.
For me, it was the 2000s.
Okay.
The 2000s. That was a good time, because I think The Best Man came out in like '99, mm-hmm. And then I had a pretty good run in the 2000s. You know, took a couple chances on a few things, didn't work, and then actually, you know, so then for the 2000s it was good, and then we kind of hit, DVDs went down
Right.
Netflix came up, DVDs went down, and they kind of stopped making certain movies.
Right.
Because they weren't getting the DVD revenue. But I would say 2000s.
Of all the movies you've done, all of them from 90s to here we are today, what's your favorite movie?
Wow. Now that's a tough one because whenever someone asks me about a movie, I know the person's asking me about the movie that they saw.
Right.
But when I think about the movies, I think about my experience on set.
Okay.
Because it's really hard for me to watch a movie over and over and over again. And it's really hard for me to watch anything with myself because I'm always cringing, worrying about the choices that I made. So I'm never relaxed.
Right.
So I always relate it back to the experiences. And I would say The Best Man was one of my favorite experiences ever. I mean, the movies are all kind of like my kids. I love everything about all of them because it's a part of me. It's a part of my experience in the industry. But The Best Man, I had the best experience.
Do you ever watch a movie with yourself and it's like, I should have done that different? I should have.
That's why I can't do it. It's really hard. There's not one thing that I've ever done that I said, okay, cool. Let me drop the mic. Not one. Even, I cringe when I watch some of the stuff now because of the choices that I make. But yeah, it's, like I say, it's just, I'm just fortunate. It's just a blessing to having been able to do this for such a long time.
All right, I'm gonna name some of your movies, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Or a story.
Okay.
Higher Learning.
Higher Learning. John Singleton, Omar Epps, Ice Cube. I like that movie because we actually worked with a track coach.
Okay.
And one of the things that I love just about being an actor is because we always get to work with technical advisors for whatever we're doing.
Right.
And I got a couple of workouts from him at that time. So I remember working with the track coach, the rehearsals.
The Ernest Green Story.
Ooh, wow. Oh, you want to take me back there, huh? The Ernest Green Story. Interestingly enough, the Ernest Green Story, I had a great time in Arkansas. But I go back, Eric Lanaville, who directed that movie, was at the start of my career. And I've done some real estate stuff. What I remember most about that movie, I say it's always about the experience outside of the movie or the show, is Eric Lanaville at that time, he said, listen, you're just starting your career. He says, buy yourself a duplex, live in one half of the duplex, rent out the other duplex. You'll always have a place to stay. So I just remember his sage real estate advice on the show.
Two can play that game.
Two can play that game. Anthony Anderson and I had a really good time on that movie, just laughing and having fun with Anthony. Anthony, that was my first time working with Anthony, and I knew right up at the very beginning of the rehearsals that this man will say anything. There's nothing that will embarrass him that he can say about me, himself, or anybody. So I enjoy working with him, and I love working with Viv. I mean, at that time, Vivica and I had done a television show together prior to that movie, and so when we came together there, she was just she's an incredible actress, actually.
Think Like a Man.
Think Like a Man. Now that experience was, I just think about Taraji. So Taraji and I had worked together prior to that movie, and just playing that role opposite her. The one thing that is Taraji Henson. I mean, she is one of the, and I know everybody knows this, but the finest actresses that I've ever worked with. Matter of fact, when she was in Not Easily Broken, she played my wife. And at the time, I think she had done Baby Boy, and I forgot what the other film that she had done was that everybody knew her from. And I said, listen, I want you to, brought her in after to play my wife in this movie because I knew that she had such a high level. So I really appreciate, even just in that short time in that movie, all of her talent. What
about Girls Trip? That's one of my favorite movies too, Girls Trip.
Girls Trip. So Tiffany Haddish, she's
that's her breakout role.
That's her breakout roles. I worked with Tiffany. I did a stage play with Tiffany. And in the stage play, it was one of the touring plays that I did with her. Her character was she killed it every single night. She has some stuff in the bag that nobody's seen yet, and when she breaks it out, it's gonna be something.
Do you feel you've played a role that maybe you should have gotten nominated for an Oscar? Or are you waiting for that role?
Let me see. I can say this. I can say that I've had some. I can't really say nominated for an Oscar. I mean, I think that I've had some. I've played a role, and I won't say what it is because I want people coming at me. But I think I played a role to where I've exhibited a range of emotion, and I think it should have gotten recognized as something. But again, it's not really. I've never really. My goal has never been to get nominated because that's always something that, you know, as an actor.
That's subjective. That's out of your control.
It's out of my control. So my thing is I just want to just keep doing what I'm doing. Whatever job I get, do it to the best of my ability and keep it moving.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of Black actors?
Mount Rushmore. Well, one person who is just, I mean, he can take the whole piece. And that's Denzel. Denzel. His hands down. And so what people don't realize about Denzel is for him to do what he's done for so long. Matter of fact, it's incredible. But what's the most challenging thing as an actor? Most actors at his level, they either get the critical acclaim or they get the box office acclaim. Right? Denzel Washington movies, they're either making $100 million or they get nominated every time they do something. Denzel does both. His films go past $100 million all the time, and he's always getting nominated, and he's done it for 30 plus years. Yeah. You know, I'll never forget Denzel did a movie because my mother was an educator in South Central Los Angeles, and he did a movie of the week, a George McKenna story about her high school. And I was in high school at that time. So he's been being a leading man for a long time. That's why it always kind of bothered me when people, not bother me, but people always say, he's just Denzel. He's just being Denzel. First of all, people don't understand, you know what I'm saying? People don't understand the challenge of being in front of a camera. They think, they can just go in front of the camera and be themselves. They don't, because they don't see the 30 million crew people around you. They don't see the technical aspect of it. Right. And Denzel makes great choices. He's always entertaining to watch. So Denzel is up there. He's it.
Yeah, because Denzel convinced you that he's actually the character that he's playing. His mannerisms was Malcolm X. His mannerisms was Hurricane. His mannerisms are such that you like, damn, he really that dude? But no, he's just pretending to be.
Right. And to your point, to being subjective, I'll never forget. So when Training Day came out, I was like, Denzel, he did it again. I would always, back then, I would always run home and get online to see what people were saying about the movie. Right. And I literally, with Training Day, I ran home, got online, and people were trying to knock his performance. And ultimately, obviously, of course, he won the Academy Award for it. But it's just, like you say, it's just so subjective. You can't please people.
Right. Just speaking of, if you could give any advice to any up-and-coming young Black actors, what would your advice be?
My advice would be something that I wish I would have done a long time ago. But so the thing about acting, and I've been around a long time, I've seen a lot of people come, I've seen a lot of people go. I've seen, people get their shot, and I've seen people not get their shot. What I truly believe in my heart of hearts, and I just truly believe this, and I tell them, when they come up to me, they're in the gym or wherever, I said, are you in an acting class? Because the one thing that I've seen is when you're good and you focus on your craft, you're gonna get a shot. Right. You are gonna get a shot. It may be next week, it may be next year, it may be in the next 5 years, but you're gonna get your shot. You look at somebody, who I also think is talented, Idris Elba. Have you seen Luther?
Yes.
he smashed Luther, but he was around in The Wire, you know, and he really didn't get his breakout role. He did The Wire, didn't get his breakout role till later. He's a supremely talented actor. So, you know, as long as you're good, just keep focused on your craft and keep your eye on the main thing.
Speaking of legacy, how do you think Chadwick Boseman? We lost a great one a couple of months ago. What do you think his legacy will be? How do you think he will be remembered?
I think he will be remembered from Black Panther. I mean, he's played a lot of legends. I personally believe, talk about nominated. Did you see him in James Brown?
I did. He was unbelievable.
How did he not get nominated for James Brown? You know,
Jackie Robinson story. He was unbelievable in the Jackie Robinson story.
In the Jackie Robinson story. So, you know, I think Black Panther and James Brown, for me, those are my signature movies for him. To be honest with you, the sad part about it, you know, and I don't want to say selfishly, but just as an admirer of his work, I still think he had a lot
yes.
of him, you know, and I would have loved to have seen whatever he had upcoming.
You know what? You play a lot of athletes, and I look at Boyz in the Hood, the best man, the game plan. What is it? I mean, obviously, you have the physique. You can pull it off because you seem like some guys are like, man, it couldn't be no football player. It couldn't be no athlete. But you pull it off. Do you really enjoy playing those roles? I do because, I wanted to be an athlete, when I was coming up. And, and the thing about it also is, you somewhat get typecast. I mean, that's how people see me. That's how the powers that be see me as an athlete. And I don't mind that, because people always come up to me, you get tired of being typecast, you get tired of that, you get tired of people calling you Ricky. And the answer is no, because I don't get tired of cashing them checks.
Well,
if you go to work every day for 25 years, do you get tired of going to work? No, I don't get tired of making this money.
Exactly. That, and when I'll never forget when I first started out, and I was always, man, if I could just do something that people will recognize me for so I can get my next job. If I could just do something that people will see. Right. And I've never forgotten that.
So how long does it take you to get, I mean, obviously you talk about you work out, you hoop.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to get in shape? Or are they like, okay, I'm good, you just keep doing what you're doing? Does it really take you 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks to get in shape for a movie?
It depends on, I've seen your Instagram, I've seen your diet, I've seen your oatmeals and all that stuff. I've been checking you out, and I do that, but I have a bad sweet tooth, right? And so I need a heads up before like the shirtless scenes. I just need a heads up before those.
Being in LA, born and raised in LA,
yep.
Lakers winning the championship.
Yep. It's it's bittersweet, because Kobe wasn't there, know, and I literally saw Kobe 2 weeks before he passed. But I'm glad we were able to do it for Kobe. I'm glad we were able to do it again. I know you're a big LeBron James fan, and of course I'm glad we have LeBron, and hopefully we can get another one.
Give me your top 5 Lakers all time. Since you know the Lakers, you've been in LA your whole life. So you go way back.
I go way back. Magic. I mean, Magic has to be. I love Kobe. I love Shaq. But that Magic, those Showtime days. I mean, just the energy. We had energy with Kobe and Shaq, and even with Kobe with Gasol, but it was nothing like the Showtime energy and what Magic was doing. And Magic playing center, and so I'd have to say my top 3. You said top 3?
Top 5.
Top 5.
Yeah.
Magic, recency bias with Kobe and Shaq.
Okay.
And I put Kareem, of course.
Okay.
And Worthy.
That's not a bad list. I mean, anytime you leave off Chamberlain, the logo, Jerry West.
Well, but see, that was before. Listen, I never used to watch basketball until really Magic and Showtime got me interested in basketball. I've always loved football. So going back to Jerry West and Chamberlain and cats that I've never seen play live, because this is the thing. For me, it's something about seeing somebody playing live
yes.
in that moment.
Right.
You know, we can go back and look at the tapes, but it's not going to be the same with the game on the line, down by one. You need a bucket with that emotion there. So that's the only reason why I left off Chamberlain and the logo.
There's nothing wrong with that. So rappers, you like music.
Yeah.
Give me your top rappers.
So okay, so I'm a little biased. I think the best lyricist is Ice Cube. I mean, people got to go back and look at Cube's lyrics. He was writing for NWA, and so I like, you know, Cube, of course, Pac, Biggie, and Jay. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of cats out there that are doing it though. You know, I'll say another one that, you know, he had one album that was my favorite, I should say tape. My favorite cassette tape was DJ Quick for a long time.
Right.
So DJ Quick was a local boy.
Are you surprised? I mean, actors want to be athletes, athletes want to be rappers, rappers want to be entertainers.
Right.
What's the appeal? What's the crossover appeal?
That's interesting. I think it's I think part of it, I think to do what I do, to do what you've done, you know, you need to have that ambition first and foremost. And when you're ambitious, I think that you just look at opportunities, you know, and if you have something that you feel is secure, you're looking for the next opportunity. Right. You know, you always want what you can't have, you know. So I feel it's just ambitious people who want to search for more opportunities.
I'm gonna wrap it up with this one. A 30-year movie career, a 15-year NFL, NBA career, or a 20-year music career. If you had to do it, I'm talking to a 18-year-old Morris Chestnut.
Wow. You know what's crazy is an 18-year-old Morris Chestnut, I would have wanted to be a football player over everything. Because 18, I wouldn't think about no acting. I wouldn't think about anything in the entertainment. I wouldn't want to be. Then that would have been the shortest career of all.
Because you said, hold on, I'm 33. I can get into acting now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. But at 18, you're not realizing that. You're not thinking that way. You know what you want, and you're going after what you want. You know,
bruh, Mo, I really appreciate the time, man. Thanks for stopping by.
I appreciate it, man.
And we're gonna be watching you.
Thank you, man. Let me just plug. Can I just plug?
Go ahead, plug it.
At GFC Life on Instagram and Instagram, Twitter, for Facebook for the podcast. The Resident comes out January 6th, and yeah, check out Spell.
We're gonna be watching you, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Bless.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life.
You know what to do. Hit the subscribe button to become an official member of Club Shay Shay, where we always do something for two something.